tight.
Oh really?
Yeah, we were tight.
Oh, we didn't see that.
Yeah, we were really cool. Yeah, like honestly, like, oh no, I loved him so much, like.
Oh really?
Yeah, we were really cool, but obviously with the whole,
Maybe he was nervous. I feel like he didn't come across well.
No, but then what he was doing after when he was out.
That's what was like really like, you know.
Preach.
And it's weird because like the day before that happened, I was actually on the phone to him, checking up on him and seeing like how.
So what is he doing now?
And then for that video to come out the next day, I was like,
he was obviously trying to show off in front of his friends.
So
he was trying to be funny.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Trying to his hits.
He reached out, but I just felt like there was nothing to speak about, really.
Yeah.
I'm dead. Yewande said, not today.
That's a weird thing to
Exactly.
do. Because obviously we wouldn't have known that you were close because I don't think they ever showed that. Yeah.
Wow. This tea.
Like Amber was so set on a type.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel like he was that type.
Whereas Joanna was like all hitting.
Yeah.
I think it was just insecure. It was kind of like in that environment, it's like, you know, you're not someone's type, and you know someone's just like, let's say, managing you, right? That's what you have in your head. Actually says that to all the girls that dissed me, I hope you get blacker than black, as if to say, being black is a punishment. So then to say that, it's like, don't fucking insult us.
So we have Yewande on the Receipts podcast, and she spills major tea, and we're going to just break this over an hour podcast down for the best parts for you guys to sit back, watch and enjoy. Hey guys, it's Murad Murali. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. If you haven't already, please do click that button and follow me on my YouTube. Subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at Murad_Murali, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell. I'd really appreciate it. Now if you guys haven't noticed, my voice is now nearly on the mend. It's nearly 100% there now, so yes, I'm very happy because I was worried that my voice was going to go, and we cannot allow that to occur because there simply is too much going on for that to happen. Now we have Yewande on the Receipts podcast. This aired this morning and nobody really saw it really coming. I don't think they announced it, or maybe they did and a lot of people missed it, but a lot of people were elated and happy because, you know, the Receipts podcast were, you know, exclaiming, they opened it up by saying that everybody has been begging for Yewande to come on the podcast. Everybody's been asking, you know, we want Yewande in the podcast to collaborate together, and you know, luckily that did take place for them, and they had this, you know, interesting kind of conversation. Now I don't know of the podcast in terms of the fact that I'm listening to previous ones, but I have seen billboards of them around and over London, so they recently are, you know, definitely hitting the waves, and I feel like a lot of people are beginning to enjoy their stuff. What I do like about their podcast is that they are unfiltered, and they do just come at you with the questions that we as an audience really want to know. The questions and kind of answers and stuff that we really want to know and that we really like, although sometimes I feel like it could be a bit too much and a bit too unfiltered, and we will get to that in this kind of review-esque of this podcast. You know, she talks about Sherif and she kind of slams him and takes a piss out of him in a interesting way. What we didn't know first and foremost is that these two are actually very close friends. This wasn't aired at all, and I wonder why. I find that quite interesting that we had no inclination or idea that Yewande and Sherif were actually very close friends. They actually spoke a lot post the villa as well, and she even addresses that video again, and she says after that video being aired, you know, I don't feel a reason to kind of talk to him, and then he tried to reach out to her, and obviously Yewande completely ignored Sherif and just wasn't here for it. I was like, you know what, not today, not tomorrow, not never. I don't need your energy in my life. It's done, it's dusted. I saw that video, you threw shade, it's over. So he knew the fact that he reached out to Yewande, he obviously felt guilty knowing that what he was saying was bad, and he obviously denied it very quickly in other videos, posted that video, but clearly there was some guilty conscience playing on his mind. He tried to repair bridges, but unfortunately Yewande burned that bridge, and rightly so. So I didn't expect that at all, nor did I imagine that. We have her also talking about the producers. She talks about how the producers would make sure that if they had any juicy conversations, that they would stop the conversation, they would get angry or tell them off, or Yewande got told off if they continue these conversations off camera, and they said you need to stop and these conversations will be filmed. Now I get where they're coming from because they need good narratives, but at the same time, if they're continuously forcing it, it can really put off an audience. But I do find that interesting, most definitely. They also have at near the end of the podcast, they're kind of forcing her and Obi to become something. Now I find this to be a bit, you know, uncomfortable.
Yeah, any other guy, then cool, but this one is too much of a perfect.
I'm so dead right now.
One of one.
One of one. Elite.
Okay. Ovi, we love you. Today.
One day.
Must have one day, you know. Yewande must feel so embarrassed.
How people calling his name?
I'm not saying his name.
A good person.
Take your phone out. Send him a voice note.
Say
saying what?
When are you free?
Just say hi. Just say
To do what? When you say
we should catch up when you're free.
Yeah, just
Talk about what?
Take your phone
What
out.
is this kind of life?
There's so much to talk about, sis.
I feel comfortable listening to that part because first and foremost, Ovi is with India. They are in a relationship. They are a couple. It is disrespectful to India whether Yewande is close to her or not. You know, she's not going to be pleased hearing this, and neither is Ovi going to be pleased hearing this. Now, Yewande did say that she did like Ovi, and it's probably why these girls are pressing on it. But at the same time, I do feel like it's just a bit too much. You know, it's a bit, you get carried away a little bit. It's a bit OTT, you're making your guest feel uncomfortable. I feel like Yewande sounded like she was not throughout the podcast, but in that moment. And I feel like when you are asking questions, and even when you are being unfiltered with your audience, you have to understand that although your audience may like that, which they probably did, you have to understand that the unfiltered questions that you're asking can also make your guests feel uncomfortable, and your guest's priority, your guest's comfort, your guest's, you know, relaxation always comes first, which I'm sure they know of, but I feel like that needs to just be maintained. I feel like throughout the podcast it was definitely entertaining. She was spilling a lot of tea. She also talks about the whole stuff with Arabella and Danny going on, and how she genuinely actually liked Danny. They had good conversations and everything, and then she talks about, you know, they talk about how smug Arabella was, which I completely agree with. She came off so bad, she had a bad edit due to her own fault. They didn't really mention Jordan. And I feel like that in itself, I feel like they should have mentioned, because, you know, people have been talking about her and she's been talking about Yewande quite a lot. So I thought I would expect something like that, but that did not take place. She also mentions the whole Amber and Michael stuff, and the fact that she still maintains a very friendship with Michael, because they did have a good friendship prior to any of that fiasco. And I kind of see where that comes from. But at the same time, they were also saying, wouldn't Amber be upset by that? You know, mirroring it with hypothetical situations, which also is very plausible. So I find that very interesting that the Receipts podcast ladies brought that perspective. I feel like it's very important to doing so. But Yewande adds another kind of perspective to it, obviously because she's friends with Michael. Michael explained it to Yewande, and Yewande kind of understands where it comes from, where, you know, he was very insecure in that he didn't think that Amber's type was Michael. And so, you know, when he went to a different villa, Joanna was like, you're my type, and then he didn't feel like a mug. So it's his insecurities that really got the better of him, that essentially made him lose the title, because he could have won with Amber, but his insecurities with Amber maybe not liking me as much, and Amber not really securing it, and then him going for Joanna, and then now coming back for Amber, it made him look like a fool. He did every step wrong, unfortunately, and he obviously lost his way completely. She then touches on colorism and was like, I'm very grateful to see Anna there, and especially Amber, because, you know, there's a lot of struggles that we could relate to, but the podcast ladies were like, your struggle is going to be different because you're of a different skin tone. And again, I'm very glad that they brought that up themselves, because that is definitely true. The Mo Stack stuff now, I did not see coming. This whole podcast was ridiculous. If you haven't listened to it, go to Spotify, type in the Receipts podcast and listen to this podcast, because they touch on literally 95% of stuff that we wanted them to.
Your conversation with Arabella and Danny when you pulled them together.
Sweet.
Wow.
Was sensational.
Excellent TV.
It was.
I don't know how you did suck his mum, you know. I was like, you go suck your mum.
She was just sitting there. You made her feel.
She was so smug. I didn't like her.
She was so smug.
Yeah, I didn't like it. She was too smug for me.
And like for who? For Daniel.
Exactly.
For Daniel,
Like,
man
so if anyone
didn't
was
say
like
Danny.
fighting for.
I said Daniel.
So she came there for him as well. Did I make that?
So how are we getting you with Ovi then?
Yeah, what's the plan?
What's the plan?
We can help.
You know, she was absolutely shocked that there were lyrics that Mo Stack had said that obviously were ridiculously colorism induced, and now he's flipped the script to kind of ride a wave. I kind of had that sense anyways, irrespective of whether he's saying it's right or not. If you're riding a wave and you're forcing something, people can really tell. They can tell if you don't force something, just don't do it. Just be as genuine as possible, because people can tell if you're forcing something. It's just so obvious, especially people from cities. Like, it's just so obvious when you're trying to force something, ride a wave, you know, just use somebody for kind of like press and coin and whatever. It's just so obvious, and your rating points just go down, because it's like, what are you doing? So they all were just reading him for filth. And, you know, I'm kind of here for this podcast. She slams Sherif. She talks about colorism as well. She talks about the Amber and Michael stuff. You know, the Ovi stuff was kind of brought in, the Danny and Arabella stuff. This was definitely a juicy podcast. She spills all the damn tea. She slams Sherif again and said that they were actually had such a great friendship, and then she broke that off completely. And he even tried to reach out to her to say, kind of give her sorry and so forth, and she just pushed it away. Wow, most definitely, this is crazy. the tea in this podcast is ridiculous. Let me know what your thoughts are on this video. Please do comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel. Click that button for daily consistent content. Subscribe. Let me know your thoughts are on this podcast, because I'm here for it. You're here for it. We're all here for it, child, because no one knew that this was going to come out. No one knew she was going to come at you with this ridiculous podcast of just pure tea, laughter, gossip. It was hilarious. Let me know your thoughts are, and I'll catch you guys soon for another video.